Is he closer? I can see his face now. It's not a good face. The white skin is pasted straight onto the bones with no flesh to soften the line. The face looks like it was baked hard in a furnace. Tight, hard, inhuman. Except for the gash. The red and pink wound caused by the mouth of another boy. And who is to say what I would do if my face had been chewed like that, torn open by the teeth of my enemies? But I must concentrate, must prove that Zeno is right, that Apollo can never catch the tortoise. Stay there, knife boy, stay there. I didn't go straight to Mr. Mordred's office. First I went to the toilets. I couldn't see the balls of chewing gum, but I felt for them with my fingers and tried to tease them out. Filthy dog. I said filthy dog. It was so stupid. I should have said something better. The foul stuff had become so tangled up in my hair that pulling at it just seemed to make it worse. Why did I say filthy dog? So I went to the art block, found an empty room, and took some scissors from a desk. Something better. I should have said something funny, something that made him feel small. Then I went back to the toilets and hacked at the hair wherever it was smeared with gum. It took 10 minutes, and at the end the sink was full of clotted clumps of hair. Or hit him. Right in the face. Made him eat his teeth. Then I washed my hands in water as hot as I could stand it, rubbing the grimy soap, trying to get the rank stench of spit and mint off of my fingers. Filthy dog. I didn't have time to take the scissors back to the art room, so I slipped them in my pocket. But it was me who looked stupid. God, 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 God. I thought about going home. But if I went home after being sent to Mr. Mordred's office, I'd be in bad trouble. And that was definite suspension. Almost funny. You play truant, and they punish you by kicking you out of school. But that wouldn't be the real punishment. The real punishment would be what my dad did to me. But it might still all be okay. What I did wasn't bad. Wasn't that bad. I couldn't tell Mordred or Boyle about Bates and the chewing gum because that would be squealing. And even so, all I did was stand up in class and shout, "Filthy dog!" I wish I hadn't said filthy dog. I wish I'd said something better. Or nothing at all. So I went to Mordred's office, running back through the empty corridors. I could see into the classrooms through the little square windows. There were threads of wire running through the middle of the glass, so you couldn't smash it. Some of the classrooms were full of the brainy kids, the ones who did their work. And I liked to look at the orderly rows and the way the kids listened to what the teachers taught them things, and didn't just try to stop them from fighting. When I started school, I just got put into class with the thick kids, and so I was one. Or at least no one ever told me I wasn't. I think things could have been different if they just said, "Here, go in this class." And it was a good class, because I wanted to learn things, not just about war. But once you're in a place, you just can't go into another place. And then I reached the part of school with the staff room and the offices. It goes like this. You turn right at the end of the corridor, then the staff room is on your left, and the general office is opposite, on the right. Ahead there are some double doors. You go through there and you get to Mr. Mordred's room. And beyond that, the headmaster's office. I didn't know anyone who'd ever been to the headmaster's office. The headmaster was called Mr. O'Toole. We don't often see Mr. O'Toole. Sometimes he walks around school, taking a sort of a black cloud of doom with him. He usually says something at the weekly assembly, but even when he's reading out the sports result and we've won at rounders or football, he'll say something like he's reading casualty lists from the Battle of the Somme. Everyone thought that Mr. Mordred was after his job, and Mr. O'Toole looked like he thought there was nothing he could do about it. There were 2 comfy chairs outside Mr. O'Toole's office, but only a row of hard chairs outside Mr. Mordred's door. 2 boys and a girl were already sitting there. The girl looked like she'd been crying, and there were leaves and bits of twigs in the back of her hair. I didn't know her name, but I'd seen her around. I thought she might have been caught, in the bushes. But not with either of the ones sitting here. They were little year 8 scruffs, spiky-haired, cheeky, but frightened. They'd probably gone too far in some prank, and now they were staring vacantly into space, the way you do when you're waiting to be punished. I felt a bit calmer now I got that filth out of my hair, and the rage and the disgust and the humiliation of the whole thing had eased up, the way a toothache sometimes goes away after a while. But as I waited, other feelings floated to the surface. The unfairness of everything. Of me being here, while Roth and his lot got away with it, and the fear of what Mr. Mordred was going to do. And what if I did get permanently expelled? Dad would kill me for definite. Except you can only die once, and that pleasure would wait for me at Templemore High School, because the only place that would take you if you got expelled from our school was Templemore. And the Templemore kids hated us because of the war that had been going on for years. And any of our kids who washed up at Templemore got massacred every day. The bell went for the end of lesson. It meant break was beginning, which meant that Mr. Mordred would be here to take our heads off. I heard a clomping sound coming down the corridor. For a second I thought it was Mr. Mordred, but then I remembered that Mr. Mordred had little feet, and took little steps, and made some tippity-tap sound when he walked. I looked up and saw Mr. Boyle. His glasses were even more skewed than usual. I thought he'd come to tell Mordred all about how bad I'd been, but he sort of loomed over me, breathing heavily. Then he took me by the shoulder, stood me up, and pushed me in front of him back down the corridor. "Let's have a talk," he said, "in my room." Back in the classroom, he sat me down in front of him. Close up, his face, even in the place where his beard was supposed to be, seemed to have more skin than hair. He smelled a bit cheesy. Not terrible, you wouldn't say he stank, but just not very fresh. I didn't know if he was married, but I doubted it. He had the luck of someone who lived alone and didn't have anyone to tell them that they looked stupid or didn't smell too fresh. "So, what was that all about?" he said. I was surprised by his tone. He sounded sad rather than angry. "What, sir?" "You know what I'm talking about, so don't play idiot. Look, Paul, you're not the kind of kid who usually starts fights, and you're not stupid. I know you're not. So there was a first time for everything." "I'm not brainy, sir." "How do you know? As far as I can see, you've never really tried." I didn't know what to say then, so I just looked down. "I've noticed you, Paul," continued Mr. Boyle. "Just sitting there. I don't know how much you take in, but what's happened to your hair?" "Nothing, sir. I don't know, sir." "Is it mixed up with why you were shouting in class?" "Don't know, sir." "Don't know much, do you, Paul? I told you I wasn't brainy, sir." Then I looked at Mr. Boyle, thinking he might be smiling. But he wasn't. He still looked quite sad. "Can you play chess, Paul?" he said finally. "Don't know, sir." "Why not come to chess club and find out?" Mr. Boyle ran the chess club. It was full of geeks, the kind of kids who brought in thermos flasks of hot soup for lunch. I looked up at his face, his wonky glasses, his sparse beard. "Yes, sir. I might, sir." There's another pause. "Maybe see you there, then?" "Yes, sir. Just gotta get something first."